Ganga and Narayan want to compliment you for your creative introduction. Declaration of our dependence upon Krishna's holy name. It's the opposite of declaring our independence. We're declaring our dependence. So because of this weekend's event, I thought of speaking something about chanting. And because the audience, I'm assuming there's some newer people, so I'll try to do something that's a little bit of a educational as well as introductory topic. You'll see in the title slide here, there's upadhis. Upadhi. Upadhi will give a nice Sanskrit definition or classical definition in just a moment, but in simple language, it's a designation that's not really who we are. You know, our body type, or the nation in which we were born, or our gender, or our religion, or, you know, I'm a sannyasi. These are designations. It's not who we really are. That's upadhi is a designation that indicates who we might be, but not who we really are. That's upadhi. So how to chant, this is a little discussion on chanting without upadhis, or designations. So we'll start with a nice beginning. This is a little definition of devotional service. There are two classic definitions that in ISKCON we're very familiar with. One is given to us by Rupa Goswami. Newer people may not know who is Rupa Goswami, but his on the lower shelf of our altar there, along with the disciplic succession on the far right, there's 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and Rupa was a very senior member of those associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who gave the chanting of the holy name, or inaugurated the Yuga Dharma of chanting the holy name, and he gave teachings connected with devotional service. So he gives one definition. There's another definition found in the Narada Pancharatra, and the word upadhi is right in the definition. Narada Pancharatra. Sarvopadi vanir muktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchate. Very standard. Sarva means all, upadhis, or designations. Vanir muktam, or one is no longer identifying with those upadhis, or is liberated from those upadhis. And in that state of consciousness, we'll go through the word for word shortly. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam, that's bhakti. But there's a qualifier, without upadhis, where Rishikesha is the Isha of the Rishikas, the master of the senses. That's Krishna. He's Rishikesha. And with our senses, our Rishikas, we engage in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesha, Sevanam. So bhakti, uchate, it is said that bhakti is engaging with our senses in the service of the master of the senses without upadhis. So here's a definition or translation given to that verse found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhakti or devotional service means, definition, standard definition. It's a good one to learn if you haven't already learned it. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality, Godhead, Master of all the senses. So the last line has gone in the front part of the translation. When the spirit soul renders service to the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed of all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. Tat paratrena nirmalam, that's the middle portion. So here's the word for word. The first line, sarva upadhi vinirmuktam, free from all kinds of material designations, or free from all desires, except one, rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tat paratvena, this indicates intention, with the purpose or intention, singular purpose or intention, is serving the Supreme. Nirmalam, mala and nirmala, contamination and without contamination. And then contamination, very conveniently Prabhupada has added these two things that are in Rupa Goswami's definition, the contamination of jnana and karma, fruitive activity, karma, or doing something to get something, kind of a purpose, or by speculative philosophy, jnana. So, nirmalam, tatparatvena, singular purpose of serving the Supreme without these two contaminations, nirmalam. Rishikena rishikesha, purified senses free from designations, and the isha of rishikas, master of the senses. One is to render service, to satisfy his senses. Bhakti uchate. So definition. Paraphrasing, this definition is not from Rupa Goswami's writings, but Prabhupada includes this paraphrased definition in his Nectar of Devotion. Nectar Devotion is a summary study of Rupa Goswami's writing on bhakti. When our senses are engaged for the actual proprietor of the senses, that is called devotional service. Simple definition. In our conditional state, our senses are engaged in serving these bodily demands. When the same senses are engaged in executing the order of Krishna, our activities are called bhakti. So, what's bhakti? It's a process by which one can become free from designations and engage in service without those designations, serving the master of the senses. One can become freed from upadhis, devotional service without upadhis, by definition. So here's a reference found in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada is simply saying the same thing in different language. When the living entity is covered by the upadhi or designated body, he sees differences. Exactly as one sees differences in reflections of oneself in water, on oil, or in a mirror. So then he explains modes of nature. When something is reflected on the water, it appears to be moving. When that same something is reflected on ice, it appears fixed. When it is reflected on oil, it appears hazy. The subject is one, but under different conditions it appears differently. When the qualifying factor is taken away, the whole appears to be one. In other words, when one comes to the Paramahansa or perfectional stage of life, by practicing Bhakti Yoga, he sees only Krishna everywhere. For him, there is no other objective. Prabhupada has a way of making things so simple, so clear, that even when there's complexity, it's listen carefully or read carefully, and it becomes really clear. We're just at a home of somebody who was born and raised very near to the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this very nice devotee said when she grew up, she heard all about Lord Chaitanya, his pastimes, and this and that and the other thing, and never really understood it all. Hazy, at best. And then she came to America, and she met Prabhupada's books and Prabhupada's devotees, and then it started to become very clear. You know, some of the rest of us weren't born in Bengal, some of the rest of us were born some other place. And, you know, for us it was whatever it was. For me it was another reality, another world, another, you know, but, you know, very interesting. But it makes things very, very clear. Prabhupada's, the Vedas are clear, but the rendering of the Vedas is not always so clear. Even when you're born in a special place, it may not be so clear to you. So, by good fortune, we have transcendental literature that's clear. Here's a very simple definition of upadhi, because our topic is chanting without upadhis, or striving in that direction. A superimposition, which apparently, but doesn't actually, limits and defines an object. Clear? A limiting or restricting factor. These are just like dictionary definitions. For example, so here I'm going to show you some nice images. I like images. The redness of a translucent crystal placed beside a red rose. Okay? Here's a translucent crystal. And here's the same translucent crystal placed beside a red rose. It's called an upadhi. The translucent crystal is translucent, but if it's placed by a rose, it's going to look reddish, at least, if not like a rose. So that's upadhis. Or, here's another visual. Pardon me, but I like visuals. It helps me understand things and explain things. So, look, it's a full moon. But it's not completely clear because the sky's not completely clear. There's some clouds in the way. But wait a little while and it gets more cloudy and less clear. It's the same moon, and a little further away with other trees and other things in the way, it looks a little different, but it's still the same moon. So, I was having a nice discussion with a teenager the other day. It's nice to have discussions with teenagers. They're fun. Because they're, you know, teenage life, it's turbulent, trying to find themselves, and it's so forth and so on. In between where they want to be and where they are, and feeling uncomfortable about it. So teenage life. So we're speaking about, what does it mean to know who you are? Who are you? Who am I, anyway? We're too busy to ask that question, so we don't ask that question because we're busy. Busy what? Being successful. Oh, what's successful? Well, everybody knows you check this box, that box, and you're successful. Who are you? Don't ask me that question, I'm too busy being successful. And when you're a teenager asking that question, like nothing's clear, so it's like uncomfortable on top of uncomfortable. But, you know, some young people are asking that question, fortunately, for their good fortune. It's, you know, their discomfort is, it's part of the transition phase, becoming a young adult from being a dependent, speaking about dependence and independence. there is no real independence, that there's a different kind of dependence if you're knowing who you really are. Anyway, this is a picture of who we are. But if you look at the picture of who you are through a colored lens, it looks colored. So upadhis are like that. They filter what we see, they filter what we experience, what we perceive, what we do, and it moves things from the mood of service, sarva upadhi vinirmuktam tatparatwina nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam. It moves that seva to the mood of my senses are meant to be served. I'm servant to my senses and the dictates of my senses, chief of which is my dear friend Mr. Mind, that tells me what happiness is. And then I go this way or that way based upon what my mind says. And the ride's not always fun. Here's a verse from Bhagavad Gita. So that helps us get grounded. 6th chapter, Dhyan Yoga chapter. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Now, most of us can't match that qualification. We don't see Krishna everywhere. But self-realized souls see Krishna everywhere. And something that obstructs your seeing Krishna everywhere is upadhis, or identifying in terms of who we aren't. I mean, upadhi is just a friend of false ego. Which type of false ego? Ask your friend. I'm this upadhi, I'm that upadhi. Thank you. So they're companions, they're buddies. Here's another nice instruction from Srila Prabhupada's writings. Again, something that makes this topic real easy to understand. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere. And he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is the manifestation of Krishna's energy. Or another nice way of saying the same thing. In this world there are two things. There's Krishna and there's Krishnas. And there's not a third thing. In the creation of God, there's not something that's either Krishna or Krishnas. Conclusion, there's no such thing as a void in the creation of God. It's either Krishna or Krishnas. Carrying on. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. How does the devotee know that everything is the manifestation of Krishna's energy? Good question. First of all, a Krishna conscious person is a philosopher. If he sees a tree, so in a moment we're going to see an image of a tree. If he sees a tree, he thinks, what is this tree? He then sees that the tree has a material body, just as he has a material body, and that the tree is also a living entity. But due to the tree's past misdeeds, he has obtained such an abominable body that he cannot even move. The tree's body is material energy, and the devotee automatically questions, whose energy? Krishna's energy. Therefore, the tree is connected to Krishna. Being a living entity, the tree is part and parcel of Krishna. In this way, the Krishna conscious person does not see the tree, but he sees Krishna present. Now eyes get all blurry and mystical, and he sees Krishna standing there instead of the tree standing there. Now somebody may have that vision or hallucination, but the meaning that he sees Krishna everywhere is being explained. That is Krishna consciousness. You don't see the tree, you see Krishna. That is the perfection of yoga. And that is also samadhi. So here comes Mr. Tree. And look how big this tree is. Look at how small that horse and the person riding the horse are compared to the tree. It's a really big tree. I'm going to get to chanting, but this is all a background to get to chanting without upadhis. Here's 2 images. You see a nice puppy dog on the left side, and you see a king on the right side. And Prabhupada speaks about this in his Bhagavad Gita purport, chapter 13. Chapter 13, you can look it up later if you like. Chapter 13, nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. So the living entity is consciousness. Material nature is the covering of the soul or consciousness. And then there's the Supreme. So the verse that's indicated on the screen here, 13:21. Karya karna kartradve hetu prakritir uchate. Purusha sukha dukhanam bhoktritve hetur uchate. Translation. Karya karana. Nature is said to be the cause, karana, of all material causes and effects. Material nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. The sufferings and enjoyments in this world are illusory sufferings and illusory enjoyments, but through that lens of upadhi, it looks like happiness or it looks like distress. You know the saying, one man's food is another man's poison? You've heard that phrase before? One man's food is another man's poison. So somebody like this and somebody, it's yak, and the opposite. In fact, you eat the wrong foods if you have a certain disease and it can kill you, or at least aggravate your disease severely if you just don't know what your disease is, what you should and shouldn't. So the point is there's a relationship between the covering, we'll call it upadhi, or false ego, or gross and subtle body. Prakriti is the cause of the various material causes and effects, and the living entity interacting with material nature is the cause of their suffering or enjoyment. So we all want enjoyment. We don't want misery, we want enjoyment. So why do we want enjoyment? Because it's the nature of the soul. The nature of the soul, this is Sankhya, it's really simple 101. The nature of the soul is we're a tiny fragmental part of the Supreme. So as the Supreme, we're tiny fragmental parts of. Whatever is in the Supreme, it exists in us to a small degree. So he's Paramananda, and we have, by nature, a tendency to want to be happy. Nature. We want to be happy because it's our nature to want to be happy. But if we think happiness is in the field of Prakriti, then we're the cause of this so-called sufferings and the so-called enjoyments. Hetu Prakriti Uchate. Karanam Guna Sangosya Sad Asad good fortune, ill fortune, happiness and distress. We're the cause of that. Our orientation towards all of that. So it has everything to do with this topic of devotional service, is to become freed from those tendencies or coverings, upadhis. Prabhupada's explanation, you've heard this before. If you want to come into the fire, you have to become fire yourself. To become spiritualized, you need to associate with the supreme spiritual person. If you want to become pure, you associate with the supreme pure, so you can become freed from impurity, and the impurity, these upadhis. So you practice devotional service in such a way, consciously letting go of the upadhis. Letting go of upadhis is a false designation. We accept designations. I mean, I'm a sannyasi. There's certain things that I'm supposed to do and certain things I'm not supposed to do. And if I act outside of that, it's a black mark on the sannyas ashram. And so forth and so on. There are things that are recommended for each of us. We abide by them without identifying, that's me. I'm not an American. I'm not a sannyasi. I'm not a man. I'm not a this. I'm not a that. I'm not a the other. I abide by standards given in Scripture and confirmed by my spiritual master that I should live my life this way. And so I live my life this way. But the identity is yet another thing, the who am I question. Here's another little statement on upadhis, and then we'll move to chanting. A devotee cannot be of bad character because Krishna is para brahma, para dhamma, pavitram. Pavitra means pure. So impure cannot approach him. That is not possible. If you want to enter fire, you must be fire. And if you're not fire, then you will burn. So first of all, we have to revive, because Krishna, the example is given, that Krishna is the big fire. We are sparks of fire. We are also fire, very small. The sparks of fire can play, can remain within fire, and it's beautiful. Then he makes a sound when the sparks leave the fire. There is a spark. You've seen while fire is going on, it's very beautiful, and as soon as this phat falls down, separated from, it is extinguished. No more fire. It is black charcoal, that's all. So if we want happiness, then we have to dance with Krishna. But you cannot dance with Krishna if you are not pure. Krishna is pavitram. Paramam, bhavan, pavitra means the supreme pure. If you want to take pleasure in the company of Krishna and dance, rasa dance, then you have to become pure, purified. That is sarva upadhi vinirmuktam, to be free from all designation. Narayana, Parayana. Narayana society or Krishna society, same thing. He's speaking on some verses from the Bhagavatam. So the process of chanting without upadhis starts with chanting with upadhis, because we have designations, we have misidentifications with who we are and what happiness is and how do you get to happiness. So that's where we start, all of us, without exception. Even the best of souls have some conception that's not per se Krishna's recommendation. So that's where we start. And then we take up chanting. And by chanting, then purification can come. In the same chapter, as that verse that I spoke from, Sarvopadi Virir Bhuktam, same chapter, same section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Here's another very nice verse. Now this is about chanting. Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavid Grayam Indriyai Sevan Mukhihi Jivadao Swayameva Sparatyada. So Namadi, beginning with Nama. Shri Krishna Nama, beginning with Shri Krishna Nama, etc. Adi. Material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name. Form, qualities, and pastimes, that's the Adi. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the holy name, and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified, and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. Sounds pretty easy. Piece of cake. Who wants a piece of cake? I'll take 3 pieces, please. So, there's a requirement, there's an activity, but then there's the upadhi part, the letting go of the upadhis. Now it's not, our business is not upadhi nivritti or anartha nivritti. The process is bhajana kriya. The process is hearing and chanting in the association of hearers and chanters, just like what we're doing, just like what our temples are for, what we're doing right now, hearing and chanting. And gradually, it's a fact, that the principle is, the name is pure, and we're not there yet. Although the soul is pure, the soul is covered with designations and other stuff. So how does the covered soul become freed from covering? By contacting that which is pure. It's really simple. We become purified by contacting the Supreme Pure. And the holy name is Abhinatvam Nama Namino, is completely pure. So 2 things. Vibrating and tasting. The jiva, the tongue. Jivadao, beginning with the tongue, then other senses and other senses. So it starts with this chanting and hearing activity that we do a lot of. By design. The Vedic process of purification is sound. So we vibrate sounds and we hear sounds, and then we vibrate the sounds we hear, we carry back and forth. Sound, hearing, sound vibrating, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and so forth. So we invite you all to come, if whatever your schedule permits. Just quickly, our schedule is going to start Wednesday night. We're going to beat the Independence Day, the fireworks and all of that, on the 4th of July. So it's going to start on the 3rd of July, and then the 4th of July, and 5th, 6th, 7th. And so we've been through at least 10 different versions of schedule, and different. So we spent a lot of time trying to create an experience for all of you with kirtan and everything, so that at the end, those of you that participate to whatever degree you can, there's some purification through teachings and the chanting of the holy name, and festival of the holy name. That's the title of the event. Come if you can, any part of it. The schedule isn't posted somewhere, I'm sure, probably circulated. Here's the last slide. This is a nice prayer, Bhuta Shuddhi prayer. So it's a prayer that the message is a prayer to become fixed in one's spiritual identity, or identifying oneself as Krishna's servant instead of the upadhis. I am by nature the eternal servant of Krishna, but by misfortune, due to by being inimical toward him from time immemorial, I have been identifying myself with the body and have been continuously wandering in the cycle of birth and death in the material world, suffering the burning threefold miseries. Now, as a result of some unimaginable good fortune, by the mercy of my spiritual master, I know that I am the eternal servant of Krishna, that I am an infinitesimal spiritual being completely apart from the gross and subtle body. Now, by the order of my spiritual master, following in his footsteps, I have obtained the good fortune of being able to serve my spiritual master's lotus feet and the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Sri Radha Shyama-Sundara. Or, if it's appropriate, in another place, the name of that other place's deity or one's Ishtadev. So it's a Bhuta Shuddhi. It's a prayer for pure consciousness or being fixed in one's spiritual identity. It's a nice prayer. So, I think I'll end, and again invite you, if whatever your schedule permits, please join any part of the Festival of the Holy Name. If you can come for the whole thing, fantastic. We have a plan that's built into every festival, the Holy Name, every 4th of July weekend. There's a day when we try to increase our chanting a whole bunch. From our usual standard of 16 rounds, we invite everyone to get up early and chant 64 rounds if you can. Or less than that, that's okay too. So you'll see the schedule. Come if you can and sit in the company of the devotees that are in the fire of chanting, and you might catch fire too. Any comments or questions? Yes. Way in the back. Technology is great when it works, and when it doesn't work, it's something else. You guys going to speak without the microphone, is that the idea? It's not working. Okay, fine. Go ahead. I'll repeat the question for those of you that can't hear. So keep it simple. Yes, we all have upadhis. We're less intelligent with upadhis. Strike 2. You ready for strike 3? The less intelligent self says, I don't have any upadhis, and the more intelligent self says, I certainly do. So now what? Well, Well, the principle is simple. The same example. You stand near fire, you get warm. In the association of sadhu, then where I really am becomes a little more clear than before I had sadhu association. It's a practical experience for everyone that's in this practice stage, this sadhana stage or practice stage of bhakti. You start to find stuff that you had no idea was hanging around in there, in the heart. Like lots of stuff. We may know some things, but not like what happens when you start cleaning. So just stay in the association of sadhus, or stay in the association of Vaishnavas, and the process of hearing and chanting, and things that you couldn't see before you can see. You turn the light on when it's darkness, and you can see all kinds of things that you couldn't see when it was darkness. Here's Prabhupada's example. When you go into a room or a house or someplace that hasn't been cleaned in years and years and years, and you start cleaning, what happens? Dust is flying all over the place. And it's maybe difficult even to breathe because it's so dusty. But keep on cleaning and keep on cleaning and keep on cleaning, and gradually the place becomes clean. And when it's clean, then it's inviting. But in the process of cleaning, you can see, wow, this place was really neglected for a long time, and it's a mess, which you didn't really know until you started cleaning. To become more keenly aware of what our situation is, take up the means of purification, and it'll become clear where the purification isn't, where the purity isn't, and where some attention is needed. But here's the but don't just become fixated upon where the place is that's not clean. Rather, remain focused on that which is pure. You keep going towards the light and things get brighter and brighter. Don't be focused on, here's some darkness over here, there's another darkness over there. So stay with the process of purification. So that's the recommendation, given the scenario that you described. And it's all of us, not just you. The process of self-realization is remembering that which we have forgotten. And we may not even know that we've forgotten because we're forgotten, covered in ignorance, unfortunately. And that's as Kali Yuga progresses, it gets darker and darker. It doesn't get better and better. Anyone else? I hope you could hear the question. Okay.
Maharaj, you gave some.
Hey, it works.
You gave some examples of upadhis. You started the class with giving some examples of upadhis, such as being an American, Indian, whatever, bodies, varna, and so forth.
Yeah.
I was thinking more about, upadhis that we might be carrying, and I have a few questions around that. For example, the sense that to identify oneself as a struggling sadhaka, is that an upadhi?
No. That's a process of purification. But that's not an upadhi. It's a stage of, it's something else. It's a stage of purification. It's not specifically an upadhi. That's not what upadhi means. Should I go back to the dictionary definition of upadhi? You want to go there?
Sure.
A limiting or restricting factor, a superimposition which apparently limits or defines an object.
One of the slides was saying that a true designation is I'm an eternal servant of Krishna.
Yes.
So while I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, I can simultaneously be a struggling sadhaka, and that's absolutely true as well. And it's not a limiting factor as this is being.
Well, you're asking the same question.
I'm just clarifying for myself as I'm speaking.
You're using different language, but to me it's the same question.
Mm-hmm.
And my answer is the same answer. It doesn't fall in, it falls into a different category, not under the upadhi category. It falls into the category of a stage of awakening of dormant consciousness, or the stage of sadhana. So it's a different topic than the upadhi topic.
Is there a definition or difference delineated between upadhi and ahankar?
Well, I spoke about it. I'll say it again. They're friends.
I heard you say that.
I think of it this way. It's like a Venn diagram. You know, you're an educated man, so you know what a Venn diagram. I had to learn it. So there's this thing, and then there's that thing, and there's some places where they overlap. Where they overlap, that's a Venn diagram. So they're not a one-to-one exchange. They're not completely different either. There's some characteristics that they share. They're not one and the same. They mean different things, that's why there's different terms. False ego, there's ego. There's aham, that's who I am. And ahamkara, the identity of who I am. So that's consciousness. And then upadhi, this is my understanding of the distinction. Upadhi is the superimposition upon consciousness. There's consciousnss and the mistaken identity. Then there's that which is the covering, which is the upadhi. That's the Venn diagram model. That's how I understand it. Language is important. Another, very good. Hope it doesn't explode this time. You have to press that little magic button.
Maharaj, in the previous example that you gave, that while I'm cleaning the house, there's a lot of dust is coming.
What? Which example?
When you said that when we clean the house, a lot of dust
Yeah,
comes.
that one, okay.
So while I'm cleaning the house, if the dust is so much that it overwhelms me and I have to leave the house.
Okay, we'll let it settle and come back again.
So what am I supposed to do? Like in
Leave it, let it settle and come back again, or wear a mask or something. If you're feeling overwhelmed, then you pause. I mean, the example, that specific example, is an example that Prabhupada gave to a temple president. I'll give the example. The temple president, his name was Karandar. He was the president of the Los Angeles temple when Los Angeles was Prabhupada's Western world headquarters. It's where he established the BBT, and a nice temple, and it would fantastic deity worship and book distribution and rah. Western world headquarters. And Karandar was the temple president as all of this started growing and growing and growing. So he's the one that said to Prabhupada, before I was a devotee, I felt more peaceful. And now, my mind is so disturbed, so many things. And then Prabhupada gave this example. When you go into a place that's not been cleaned for a long, long time, and you start to clean, there's dust flying all over the place. That's what he was experiencing. So in other words, Prabhupada was also doing so many things, but he was always peaceful because he was pure. He could discern, he could decide, he could, process many things without being disturbed. Dhiras tatra namuyati. So you're back to your question. What happens when you're feeling like I'm getting overwhelmed? Now, Prabhupada didn't tell Karandra, pause out, you can check out being the temple president for 6 months, and then check back in with me. He knew the devotee, and he encouraged him the way that he encouraged him because he knew the devotee. So some of us may need, not necessarily you need to check out, but at least enter into a mode of goodness space where you're reflecting rather than doing, assessing who you are, what are the resources, what are the Krishna Shakti empowerments that you draw upon. How can I strengthen those Krishna Shakti empowerment sources? How can I improve my sadhana? How can I, get strength to not feel overwhelmed? But literally pausing for some time is sometimes that's done. For you or for any one of us, it's doable. And otherwise, there are other models to look at. Just step back. As they say, 10 deep breaths. You go into a mode of goodness space. That's what I like to describe and sometimes do. Just instead of go, pause, reflect, connect, reassess, then decide what's the best next step for me and my service to Krishna and Prabhupada. It may slow down, so you can recalibrate things. It's good to have sadhu sangha. You go to persons who you feel close to. They may be peers, they may be superiors, whatever, and you go spend time with them. It's because you want to get clarity, because you're not feeling that same clarity that you should and want. So sadhu sangha. It's another what to do when that happens. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Thank you, Maharaj. So again, this is a sampler of what awaits us at the Japa retreat that starts on July 3rd at 6 p.m. and goes on until July 7th, 1 p.m. So again, for people who are eager to develop the attraction for chanting the holy name and go deeper into the relationship, I think this is a great opportunity. Wonderful association. There are more than 160 devotees who have already registered, and great prasadam. So again, there's nothing. What is the problem here, as Srila Prabhupada would say. So, so great opportunity. Please take advantage of this opportunity. I have two more announcements. So today is the last day for registering for the Gita camp. Now the Gita camp is a camp that we conduct every year for kids between 5 and 12 years old. And it starts on July 15th and it's for an entire week, actually 2 weeks, all the way going up to July 26th. And again, this is a program that consists of a lot of fun activities, kirtans, Bhagavad Gita discussions, verses, arts and crafts. So again, a really good opportunity for learning something new, but also really good association for your kids. The registration is available on the website, and also you can pick up flyers when you go for prasadam downstairs at the counter in the lobby. Or there's also Sri Radhika Mataji here, who can provide more information if you would like to enroll your kids. Next, I would like to thank our Sunday Mahabhog sponsors. I would like to thank Abhijay Paul Prabhu, and again, he's seeking blessings of their lordships and the devotees. And then also, I would like to thank Mahesh Patel, Dharmishta Patel, and Bhumika Mataji, again, is seeking the blessings of, prayers of the devotees. So if we could all chant one Mahamantra on their behalf. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I would like to ask Abhijay Paul Prabhu or somebody from his family to please come forward and accept this gift from Maharaj. Please come. Hello. Do we have anybody from Mahesh Patel and family? Again, we would like to thank these devotees. Thank you so much for sponsoring. Again, this is an opportunity that is available to everybody. If you would like to celebrate either an event in your family, please feel free to, again, contact one of us here. Or you could also go to the website and you can get information about the sponsorship opportunities. Thank you so much. Now, the next most important event is also Prasadam, which is being served downstairs, but I have here Shyam Prabhu wants to make an announcement.
Hare Krishna, we forgot to ask if anybody here coming first time. Can you raise your hand? We see a lot of new faces. Please raise your hand if anybody is visiting temple first time. All right, I see some hand over there, there. All right, please give a big hand to all these devotees who came today. Thank you so much. So every Sunday, those of you coming first time, our program starts at 5 o'clock. We have varieties of services, including Govindas and book table and everything. So please take time. If you need any help, we are here to walk you through. So again, once again, thank you so much, and we'll see you all this time, not next Sunday. This time we'll see you on Wednesday. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful time.
It's working.
Hare. Hey, what time we starting? So give him a half an hour. Well, so what am I stop? Huh? I cannot stop. I cannot stop at 7. This is 6:40. I'd be supposed to go for half an hour. So check me for half an hour.
No,
Okay?
trouble. The first slot is whenever class ends to 7.
Okay. So what, I'll say right now how much I going for. 7. I chanting half an hour. Okay? Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hey. Go. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, pahi mam. Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Presaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Devi Sesha Sunyavare Paskata Satarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadana Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadana Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda